Robert Plank Show, episode 382, Native Advertising and the Penny Hoarder. How to create a movement, scale it, deliver massive value, and make the most money from your website with Vishal Mahtani. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Vishal Mahtani, and he runs a website called thepennyhoarder.com, and he does lots of interesting things on the internet. So we're going to hear all about it. So Vishal, great to be talking to you.
Oh, and thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So can you sort of tell us about sort of what you're all about and about your websites and stuff like that?
Sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur, been in digital marketing for quite some time. I want to say about 17 years. And we work with, we're currently working with a company called the Penny Hoarder, and the Penny Hoarder is a website that is, it's all about putting money back in people's pockets, right? So it's all about growing, saving, and earning money.
Okay, great. And so, I mean, is this a blog, or it has like training courses, or like what is this website exactly?
Yeah, so it started out initially as a blog, but we've kind of grown. We've grown so much that it's not quite a blog anymore. It's a website about personal finance, and it addresses the way we might budget ourselves or ways that we're spending our money, whether it be on coupons, savings on coupons, or savings downloading specific apps like Ibotta, for instance, that help you save money as you live through your life regularly. So it's just streamlining the way you 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 handle your personal finances.
Okay, cool. And so how did you end up working on this? Like, did this the website already exist, and then you were hired to kind of beef it up and stuff like that?
Right. Again, like my background, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started different sites and different companies. Some in the area of a network like digital marketing networks, other in the area of publishing, and a third in the area of B2C like products. My last one was actually called. It was a company that bought and sold gently used kids' clothes online. And once I sold that in February of 15, a friend introduced me to Kyle. He kept telling me I need to meet Kyle from the time I sold the company. And about 3 months later, I was vacationing in Cayman Islands, and he messaged me on Skype and said, "You need to meet him now. He's ready to blow up and make some big moves." So we Skyped. Kyle was in New York. We both live in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area, but he was in New York. I was in Cayman, and we hit it off. And a few days later, we were meeting for lunch in St. Petersburg, and we hit it off. It was very obvious to me the guy had a tremendous amount of drive and vision, and I wanted to join him. So he hired me to come build out the business department. And when I say business department, everything dealing with revenue, demand generation, and ad operations, which means all our account management team and the people who go on Facebook and buy media.
All right, super cool. So you sort of joined up with this company, and so when you first started and you kind of looked at what you're dealing with, I mean, what kind of happened in those first couple of weeks? I'm sort of looking for like, what was your thought process, and what kind of like just kind of ideas came to you when you first started working on this thing?
Yeah, so when I guess during the lunch when Kyle and I met, when he shared his vision right before lunch, I obviously looked at what was going on, how he was building this business, and what struck me, what really excited me, is how content was playing into performance media, right? So he was able to weave in an honest voice with a readership that was engaged, performance marketing and performance advertising, right? So talking about specific products and services that he uses and enjoys himself, and speaks to them from the first person, and his experience, as well as even some customer testimonials that he might have gotten from those services. So what was innovative about this, and what is innovative about it, is how you take an honest voice and tie it to partners or advertisers. And part of that key is making it a performance marketing model. So it's more like, instead of breaking a big deal for millions of dollars and then figuring out how you're going to write about it, it's more like, all right, I want to write about this. Let me see how I can get it the quickest way. And that's usually to break a deal, to say, hey, how about I just send you some traffic, and you pay me on a per person who signs up. Pay me on, is where we take all the risk. So it allows for a quick cycle on on finding something that is interesting, writing about it, and getting paid for it, rather than this whole long cycle of it, this long sales cycle that it typically takes a publishing company.
And can you sort of give us an example of one of these, some of this performance marketing? Because I feel like I'm sort of following along a little bit, but it would really help to sort of hear like a concrete example of like some kind of like content or blog post that you made that like tied into one of these other offers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to give an example. So, a great example of this might be Uber, right? So, we're about earning, saving, growing money. So, on the earning side, we'll talk about how to earn money while driving for Uber, right? So, people want to become Uber drivers, but they sometimes are hesitant. They don't know what to expect. So, we've written posts or articles about people who have become Uber drivers, interviewed them, understood what they do on the side. One was a comedian, a stand-up comedian, but wanted to make some money on the side. How can they do that, and how do they feel about it? So we got an understanding of what it was to become an Uber driver from day one, and follow them through their life cycle of that of becoming of that on-demand service, how much they are able to earn in what hours. So if we go to Uber now and say, "Hey Uber, how much would you pay us for a new driver that comes to you?" And that deal is a lot quicker to say, "Oh well, how much traffic can you drive?" And we'll go and do a sort of like a consultative sale to understand what their needs are, and if their needs are, to have more drivers in New York, or to have more drivers in Florida. We might speak to that a little bit more, so that it helps them gain what they need, which is drivers in those particular states. So they'll become a driver. We get paid when somebody becomes a driver. So we'll just break a deal on where that is, like how much we get paid for that action.
Okay, cool. And that's super interesting because instead of you just like blindly sending traffic to Uber's affiliate program, you're actually talking to them and figuring out more of like what they need and then positioning what you have towards what they were asking you for. That's pretty cool.
That's exactly right. It's understanding the KPIs, the goals. It's really consultative. What are your goals this month, this year, this week, right? And we can actually speak to that and get very specific.
So, have you guys had any sort of difficulty with? I mean, like you link to these offers and there's Uber and stuff like that. But have you had difficulty monetizing the site? Because I imagine if you have one of these high traffic sites, you have to always be kind of staying on the ball to keep the high traffic coming in. And then the other thing that sort of strikes me is, when you have this kind of topic of, fight personal finance and budgeting and saving money and couponing. I imagine that there's a big chunk of your readers of that site who maybe they don't spend a lot of money. So those are like kind of two things that come to mind. So I mean, am I just way off base, or are these real difficulties that you guys had to deal with?
So no, well, I'd say what's really great is that we cover a broad spectrum, right? So those that are earning can learn more about savings, right? And those that are not earning as much can learn more about earnings. So we kind of speak to both sides of that, and it luckily, unfortunately, it hasn't been a challenge. But you speak to hard times with traffic, and this really speaks to our funnel, right? Our revenue team, who brings in, or who speaks to advertisers who contact us many times to understand what their needs are and if they align well with us. And I'm happy to say there are many advertisers out there that are straightforward, transparent, and they have a good service that actually does good for society. So those are kind of the criteria is to have a value proposition to our users or our readers, that brings them real value in either earning, saving, or growing. And that is what allows us to generate that sort of traffic, right? So if there's a really cool offer, like we work with Stash Invest, right? And it allows them to actually save money, right? And if they do it for a fee that is nominal or even zero, or waive them the charges for the first 60, 90 days, that's a true savings, right? And we can speak to that, and we can now not only put it on our site and have people who are already on our site engage with that advertiser and understand it from, maybe it's our perspective, who's a user, or even one of the customer testimonials, or several of the customer testimonials, and what they've gotten out of it. We're able to gain traffic from that, but also we can go out into other, whether it be social media or search, and generate more traffic for that, right? So the more good advertisers or great products or services we find, the more site we generate. Site traffic that we generate. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
That is pretty cool. And as you're sort of, like cranking out the content, getting the traffic going, figuring out the offers and stuff like that, have you seen any? I mean, I'm sure that there is some kind of like competition and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, have you had any difficulties in sort of standing out or differentiating yourself compared to sort of similar websites to this?
It's I'd say it's been a challenge to find that, right? And I'm sure I know that there's people that do sort of things that we do in the way that we function, but really what it comes down to is content, right? And we have a very unique voice, and copying content or having similar content. We've seen a couple people out there doing it, but not to this level to where I would consider them competition.
Okay, so I mean, so why? I mean, why do you think that is? Why do you think that you guys really stand out, and then if someone else kind of comes along, they don't really get the traction you guys have?
So there's two ways to look at competition, the way I see it, right? There's business model, and then there's subject matter. What we've found is people within the subject matter of personal finance, it's either very deep, like a Wall Street Journal, and it's talking about investing in the market and very complex things, or it's on a really light side, and it might even like be more mainstream, like couponing. We're kind of a mix in between this, right? So we haven't quite found somebody or another competitor that kind of has this sort of mix of traffic of content. But on the business model side, there certainly are several people who are in this area, right? And many of them have different approaches, and it has to do with strategy. Some of them take an SEO side to it, which is looking at the wire cutter or going back in the day of CNET, where it's like this versus that. It's comparison shopping, right? And then doing reviews and comparing products, and that makes a lot of sense because you get all this great free traffic, and people who are at the bottom of the funnel purchasing, they'll find it at the right time when they're ready to purchase, and they'll click on it and purchase, right? And they get paid commissions for that. I think what I think the difficulties, I don't know personally, but I would imagine the difficulties that anybody trying to compete in what we're doing in business model is that connection with the advertiser, and really understanding what their needs are, and how we pull our some levers on the content side in order to meet that criteria. So it's kind of where creativity meets the needs of an advertiser, and we're a creative firm at heart, right? The vast majority of our people are creative, and they're writers. So I think that's probably why it's difficult to compete, is because it's creative.
Okay, and I mean, and how big of an operation is this? Because it seems like the way that you've been talking, it seems like it's pretty big. I mean, you guys have 5 million fans. All your posts get hundreds and hundreds of likes and shares and things. So, I mean, like, how many people do you guys have on staff over there?
Right now, right now we're 74. The last I checked, it is changing rapidly, but we're at 74 as of a few days ago.
Okay, so and then like, how many are writers more or less?
I have to guesstimate at this point because since we're growing so rapidly, it's about a third of our organization is writing.
Okay, so like maybe like 25 or so. And so I mean, so I just kind of ask because I'm sort of curious. Like, I mean, how do you manage all that sort of stuff? Like, do you say that they have to like publish like X number of articles per week, or I mean, what's how do you sort of make sure that all those writers on staff are kind of doing their best?
Sure. Well, that's actually it's interesting you asked that because it has a lot to do with kind of how we're structured. We on our executive team, it's myself who's more in the business organization, so everything dealing with revenue, with demand generation, media buying, and technology, where advertising meets technology. That's kind of my area, and on that side of the house, it's Alexis Grant, and she's the one that's actually put together this whole team, and puts together their goals, and allows them to reach their potential.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, as far as what you do, I mean, what's your typical day like? Does it change up a lot, or do you have some sort of like a routine or like certain tasks or certain areas you focus on throughout the day?
Yes, obviously, the first thing I look at is revenue, and then I look at costs. What's our site traffic like? What's our demand generation side? What sort of media they're buying, and what does our revenue look like, and which advertisers we're generating that revenue on, and of course deltas changes between advertisers. And then we walk into once that's kind of in preparation for our morning, but also in preparation for our daily stand up for our revenue team, where we start to call out and understand where we are with particular advertisers. Maybe there's an advertiser that needs more volume. Maybe we're going over budget with another one. We're running a little hot. We kind of had those sort of discussions for the first 30 minutes of our morning. So that's usually and it's usually follow up for that team on all of those things that come out of that meeting. For myself, typically we'll meet with our technology department on projects we might be working on in technology. Meet with each the head of revenue, the head of demand generation, and the head of ad operations. So this is typically my days touching base with these people and understanding where we're at with particular projects.
Super cool. That's interesting to sort of hear that little bit of insight and like how your kind of day to day goes. And so as far as like when you're making some of these decisions, like it sounds like as far as like the money coming in, most of that it is from sort of having these like these sort of like these special deals, right? These special offers where you send signups to Uber and then they pay you per sale, things like that. Is that right? Is that where most of your guys' income comes from?
Yes, almost all of it. I'd say above 90%.
Cool. And I asked that because I mean I'm sort of curious. Like, have you given any thought, or do you have any plans for maybe some other sort of forms of income, like maybe like courses you guys provide or anything like that?
We have some stuff in the pipeline, and happy to chat more about it about them when we launch. But yeah, I think you're kind of you're on the right line, on the right track. We're looking at ways of bringing our content together and making it and maybe putting a different packaging it differently. There are a few things on the plate that we're looking at, but yeah, right now that is our main revenue stream. But looking at packaging different products for our consumers.
Okay, super cool. And then, and so something else is, as you were sort of explaining your guys's, like, their different competitors or like how, like, what your guys' thought process is. You mentioned places like CNET, where, sometimes they'll compare products or sometimes they'll have videos and stuff. And so, as far as your guys' website, I mean, is it just text based or do you have like videos and audio and other sort of multimedia on there?
So the vast majority of it is text based. We do a little bit of video here and there. We're actually working. We have some stuff in the works for more video and more like figuring out the right secret sauce and the angle that will allow us to be successful there. But it all derives from people looking to us to guide them in the right direction for personal finance, but in a fun way. So yes, we're looking into. We actually we did a whole stint in Facebook Live. Did some testing. We realized that unless it's something that's super timely or needs immediate engagement, that it doesn't that I guess what if we're going to use that route, it needs to be used for one of those two things. So we've actually reduced a bit there and focusing a little bit more on proper production.
Super cool, and it's very interesting just to kind of hear your thought process and hear about how you're kind of looking at where your levels are at, or you try different things, and then kind of examine how those experiments worked out, and then you can say, okay, well, are we gonna was that just a temporary thing? Was that just a test, or what does that tell us? Or are we gonna do more of that? So it's really cool just to kind of hear like your business sort of mind working and saying, okay, well, instead of just kind of going and trying all this stuff and just kind of doing it just for the heck of it, you actually go in and you measure and you track these different things that sort of happen. And so, I mean, in all your your travels and all your kind of ups and downs and business experiences and things like that, have you ever kind of come across like any just like I don't know, like number one piece of advice or just the one thing that's always stuck with you as far as managing all these businesses and things like that?
Yeah, actually, I guess since most of the businesses that I've been in are all in the startup phase. So typically, it all comes from, and it's they termed it this term of like, you know, um, a hack, right? Or coming up with like a demand generation or a media hack, and growth hack is another term that's used. So, I mean, whatever it's called, it really is. It's really finding a different way and being a first mover. Whether it's not necessarily inventing an industry, you could go as far as that, but it's really finding that secret sauce, that one thing that makes that unique. Whether it's okay, maybe it's you say what we do is I say what we do is quite unique, but a different spin on it, buying media from a different from different places, and getting it to really work. So it's really about elbow grease, but then identifying that you've actually found that hack and scale it, right? That you found that area that has a low demand, where you can buy media or get the eyeballs at a very low cost, and have the other side of it where you're generating the revenue correctly, and then scale it. So it's the elbow grease to get there, recognizing that you're there and scaling quickly. At the same time, I've learned this the hard way, but at the same time you have an idea, there's probably 1,000 other people having the same idea, because typically it's when society and technology intersect. And it's not like you could have done this last year and it would have worked. It's society adapting to a piece of technology or a new technology coming about that matches society perfectly. So it's about acting on it quickly, and then and knowing how to scale when you find that secret sauce.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, imagine if someone tried to invent Uber 10 years ago, or if someone tried to invent cell phones 30 years ago, wouldn't have worked. The timing was wrong. But then if you come across that gold, it sounds like you better scale it, you better jump on it before everyone else who has the same idea, who everyone else who sees the timing is right, gets there before you, or beats you to the punch. So I mean, really great advice, really great way of thinking. I love it, super awesome. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows, everything about you guys and the Penny Hoarder. And so if people listen to our conversation today, do you have any websites or recommended resources where people should go after listening to our talk today?
Well, definitely come to the pennyhoarder.com and take a look at what we're doing. It's unique. If you go down to on the right rail, if you're on desktop, kind of understanding, looking at the trending and recommended content, those are more of the areas that we're generating revenue in a native way. Just take a look at how native is come about and how it's changed. I think getting your head around that will do a lot of good, because I think advertising is kind of the way we see current advertising, whether it be TV advertising or banner advertising, is kind of becoming a thing of the past, and this is more of the way people are interacting. So please take a look at what we're doing.
Super cool. So everyone make sure to do that. Go to thepennyhoarder.com and check out about what Vishal is talking about here, as far as just this native advertising thing, and not saying, here's my blog post, here's some random banner ad. It's actually sort of integrated, and there's all kinds of great resources here, whether you're looking to sort of save money, do the coupon thing, or to grow your money. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like, paid survey sites, 30 of the best online freebies, 12 ways to add 5 grand to your bank account this year, all kinds of interesting stuff. So make sure that you visit the Penny Hoarder for all those different reasons, to see native advertising in action, and most importantly, to absorb that content, because everyone could use more money. So check out that site to see money saving tips, money growing tips, and everything in between. Lots of great stuff. And thank you, Vishal, for stopping by and dispensing both sort of a behind the scenes as far as what you do, and then also talking up the Penny Hoarder and all the great stuff you guys are doing there. So I really appreciate it, and you. So thanks for coming by and sharing some of that stuff.
Oh, thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me. Thanks for your time, and all your listeners. Appreciate your time as well.
We really appreciate you listening to today's episode of The Robert Plank Show. Subscribe to us on iTunes and rate and review us at robertplank.com/iTunes.